People often ask me about my own journey with chronic pain, and whilst it is an interesting one, it is a pretty long one, so I'm not going to bore you. However, I do have a story which I think you're probably going to find quite interesting, not just in the sense of chronic pain, but to get to know myself a little bit better as well. So very, very rarely does pain have one driving factor. Okay, pain is multifactorial when we're talking in the fibromyalgia, nociplastic, hypermobility kind of pain. Okay, generally, if you stub your toe on a coffee table, that is nociceptive pain, pain that arises as a direct result of nociception. And you can generally attribute the cause to the kind of inflammatory response, the injury you've just received. But whilst this is the main driver, there still is other contextual factors. If you stub your toe when no one's around, it's probably going to hurt. If you stub your toe when your friends are watching you, it's probably not going to hurt as much. If you walk across the road and you sprain your ankle, that's going to hurt. However, if a car comes flying around the corner at 40 miles an hour, you're probably going to switch off any pain production so that you can run across the road to safety. After all, on a hierarchy, keeping you alive, albeit with a little bit of damage to your ankle, is far better than you protecting your ankle and then getting squished by a car. Okay, so there never really is one singular driving factor with pain. However, in this story, it may seem like it, but there are external factors as well. So back when I was ill, I used to suffer from these horrific migraines and tension type headaches, absolutely debilitating. Pain, I could deal with that. Fatigue, could deal with that. The migraines, the headaches, I would just be completely non-functional. And that was probably the worst part of it for me, because even with pain I could push through it. However, these migraines, these tension headaches, I would just be done for days. Okay, I was grumpy, didn't want to talk to anyone, just want to get in bed, shut the blackout blinds. So I started to wonder, why do I have all these goddamn headaches? What is the driving force with it? And you know what? I went to the doctors and everybody told me the same thing. They told me it was essentially stress. Stress, you know, you're tensing your neck, it's causing these tension type headaches. However, a lot of you probably don't know, but I have Tourette syndrome. Technically not Tourette syndrome because I don't have the vocal tics anymore. It's technically classed as complex tics disorder, sorry. With this comes a lot of eye tics, which you may or may not notice in videos, but I have spent the majority of my life suppressing them, and I am pretty good, apart from when I get really stressed out, and I just let them out because it's one less thing to deal with. Now, the important part is, if we look at the research for people with Tourette syndrome, most of the studies show, well, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of the studies show in the cohort groups for people with Tourette's, about 55% and upwards have headaches, migraines, tension type headaches. So this is a little bit interesting when we start to think about it. Likewise, the prevalence of migraines in people with Tourette syndrome and complex tic disorder is more than 4 times that of the general population. Now, I'm going to explain to you now how I helped to get rid of my migraines. So, your eyes are incredibly important, okay? They work with your brain, they work with your ears, they work with everything, okay? And when it comes to visual information, the brain is, you know, it's top dollar for your brain. Sometimes it will ignore signals that are coming in from your body and just focus on the visual cue. In fact, you can have a look at some of the research around VR therapies just to see how true this is. Now, if you're watching this, what I want you to do is put your fingers just underneath the base of your skull into an area we call the suboccipital area. So these are 4 little muscles, okay, and they help to stabilize your head. Now this is very important as well for people with hypermobility, okay. So you've got your fingers under the base of your skull and your suboccipitals. Push in very gently just so you can feel the muscles, you can palpate them. Cool. Now what I want you to do is to move your eyes left to right. And what you'll notice is that when you look left, the muscles on the right activate. And when you look right, the muscles on the left activate. Okay? So when we're walking about, when we're moving and grooving, we look and then we turn our head. When we look, it signals to our brain this is our intention, and our brain goes, great. And then what happens? It contracts this side to allow us to have a nice stable head when we move. Now, when we look at people with things like CCI, this gets very interesting. But back to my story with complex tic disorder, okay? So, if you think, if I get really, really stressed out, okay, and when I got stressed out, my headaches, these migraines, these tension type, they kicked my ass hard, okay? But more importantly, when I get super stressed out, I tic more, which means my eyes start to tick a little bit more. Now, this is important because if I palpate my suboccipitals now and I tick, okay, they are firing. So for me, I also had horrific forward head posture. Now, posture doesn't correlate to pain very well. Some people can have horrific posture. They look like a little turtle. However, they've got no pain. Some people can have turtle head posture and have agony. Some people can have straight spine, really good posture, be in agony. Some people can have straight posture, have no pain at all. Okay, like I said, it's very rarely one driving factor. It's a multitude of things. But if you think for me, I'm in this position, okay? These muscles aren't working very well, or in fact, they're perhaps working a little bit too much to stabilize my head in this forward head posture, okay? Now, the important thing is as well, I was also working at a desk, looking at a computer. Now, computers have lots of little pixels in, which our eyes find really hard to kind of grab to. So we use our eyes an absolute ton when we're working. So not only was I ticking during the day because I was stressed out at work, overworking these muscles, I'm also at a computer screen all of the time, forcing my eyes to work, forcing my suboccipitals to overwork. So one of the big things that helped me get out and get away from the migraines, get away from the headaches, was understanding just how important this relationship between my eyes and my suboccipitals were. Also, I had what I call turtleneck, okay? So a lot of the time, and especially keep in mind, I come from an IED blast where although I was relatively, well, completely unharmed after the actual IED blast, my pain didn't develop until much later once I was out of the army. It was essentially like my brain went, well, this is a nice and safe environment in Civvy Street, we should probably deal with the whiplash now. And then my pain came on, okay? So I was worried about my neck all of the time, and as such, I was guarding it, which meant that when I moved my head, I wasn't actually rotating. I wasn't using my suboccipitals to help rotate, okay? I wasn't using my atlas properly. What I was doing was I was locking my neck and I was turning my whole head, or if my neck would lock up, I would turn my whole body. Now this is really, really interesting when you think about it, because I'm not using these muscles properly. And if I put my arm in a sling for 3 days, I'm gonna be uncomfortable. It's gonna be stiff, it's gonna be sore. And I was essentially doing this with my neck. Couple that in with fear of me turning my head one day and my head literally falling off, because that's what I thought. I thought pain meant damage, and I was in so much pain, my neck had to be damaged. Although, kind of evidently it wasn't. So this turtleneck that I had, it meant that I was never really rotating my head. I was just using muscles to help do a little bit of lateral flexion, which is a lot like a turtle. A turtle, to eat, they go flexion, lateral flexion, lateral flexion. And that's what I was doing all the time with my neck. It wasn't until I realized this, I was like, oh, actually, this is probably a contributing factor, not the contributing factor, but probably one of many. So if we look at the issues that I had, okay, stress was indeed a factor, but it wasn't the stress that was the issue. It was the tics. When I was stressed, I would tic more, which meant I was overworking these pool of occipital muscles. I was doing overtime at work because I would have to call in sick so much because I'd missed so many days through sickness, just the fact that I literally couldn't go to work because I couldn't function because of these headaches. So when I did go to work, I would just do crazy overtime to try and make the money back that I'd lost. So if you think you're behind a desk, doing more hours than I should do looking at the computer, it just compounded the effect. So I created a little mobility routine for my neck, remapped my neck so that I was actually rotating it and using it properly. A little bit of pain education does go a long way. Once I realized as well that my neck more than likely wasn't damaged. It can take a fair amount of force. And once I started to do all of these things, to remap, understanding that my neck wasn't damaged, and slowly start to change those neurotags, that neural circuitry in my brain that produces pain, the headache started to subside, and then old Adam came back, or more importantly, the new old Adam came back, and then eventually into the fiber guy. So I know I waffled on a bit, guys, but I thought I would share with you just a little story from my past and kind of how I think and the things I look for. And like I always say, knowledge is power at the end of the day. And I don't know if many other people, I'd definitely like to talk to anybody else with Tourette syndrome or complex tic disorder and see where they are at in their headache journeys, because there's a pretty good chance they've got horrific headaches and they have not yet realized that it's likely down to these overworked suboccipital muscles because of eye tics or obviously neck tics and things like that. So yeah, any questions, guys? Hopefully, you know what, I don't really talk about myself a great deal. It's been kind of cool to share a little bit of kind of one of my stories with you guys. So any questions, by all means, pop them in the comments. Take it easy, guys. Bye.